Last year, Capcom gave us a remarkable remake, and this year they fell flat on their face with this. 2020 really is a bad year. Resident Evil Remake 3 is the third entry in the Resident Evil Remake series, based off the third entry in the mainline series, titled Resident Evil 3 Nemesis Series X. And I didn't hate playing this game, but it's not good. The story is decent. The opening features Barack Obama, and it soon cuts to the protagonist, Leon S. Kennedy. Wait, it's not Leon? Game fucking sucks. After escaping the mansion from Resident Evil Remake 1, based off the first entry of Jill Valentine comes face to face with Mr. X's older brother Nemesis. She manages to escape and meet up with Brad, you know, the one that didn't do anything in the first Resident Evil, and finally does something heroic by getting himself killed while Jill escapes. After getting into a little scrap with Nemesis, Jill meets the other protagonist, Carl Weezer. Carl tells Jill to restore power to the subway without helping her at all, and Jill's just like, okay. Did I mention that the gameplay for the first 40 minutes is just running away from Nemesis and shooting one zombie? The rest is just cutscenes. Speaking of cutscenes, why is there so many? In Resident Evil 2, you know, you just have a few, but most of the time you were playing the game. In my 5 hours of playing Resident Evil 3, yes, it only took me 5 hours to beat this game, I'm convinced that at least an hour of that was just cutscenes. Even worse is, you're watching action, but you're doing absolutely nothing. Like in Resident Evil 4, there was a lot of quick time events. Yeah, they were annoying, but at least they kept you on your toes, and you were sort of involved in the action. In this game, you just watch. Oh, well, that's great. I am fine with cutscenes. It gives us an opportunity to see the characters interact and move the plot, but make sure you're not oversaturating your game with them. It's not a movie. Oh yeah, I should talk about how I beat this game in 5 hours. This game is very short. To put that into perspective, Resident Evil 4, a game that came out 15 years before this, took me over 15 hours to beat. Basically, Capcom couldn't be bothered to wait another year to make a more fleshed out game, so they cut shit tons of content from the original game to make a rush game and cash in on all the fans that loved Resident Evil 2. I think one massive reason why this game is very short is because of how the game is designed. In Resident Evil 2, you had a large area to explore with loads of different paths and rooms. They never exactly told you where you had to go, so there was always a great sense of mystery when you solved puzzles and progressed through. In Resident Evil 3, it's one linear path, and they could not be any more obvious of where you're meant to go. Seriously, it was so easy to waltz through an area because I know exactly where to go. There would be that occasional path that you could explore, but all you get is something like a first aid kit. It was completely unnecessary to do. Even in Carlos's segment where you go to the Raccoon City Police Department, they've all paths blocked and all doors locked, so you know exactly where to go.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Exploration and freedom is just gone in this game, and that's a real shame because that was one of the best parts of Resident Evil 2. Also, the game is very easy. I played this on standard mode, you know, expecting some challenge but not straight up bullshit, and instead I got a Kirby game. This game gives you so much ammo. There are 0 tense moments where you have no ammo because the game is giving you about 50 rounds every 20 steps you take. I can take out every zombie and still have tons of ammo to spare. It also leads to this. Now, if I did that in Resident Evil 2, I'd be saying, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a massive waste. What the fuck am I doing? But this is Resident Evil 3, so I'm like, whatever, I'll get more bullets in a sec. There's a lot less puzzles because, like I said, this game is just a linear path, so you're never looking for a certain item. And you also get this cool move where you can dodge zombies attacking you, so half the time I'm not even shooting at zombies. I'm just spamming the spacebar to get through them. The villain in this game, Nikolai, I mean, it was so predictable that he was going to be the villain. He doesn't really do anything except forcing you into boss fights and destroying the vaccine. I just did not feel anything when you kill him at the end. Well, what about the boss fights? Well, there's only one boss and it's split into different segments throughout the story. I'm of course talking about Bowser. Like, he's always in every castle. It's Nemesis. He's the only boss. When you're not running away from him, you're shooting him with a grenade launcher in a boss fight. Over and over. Now, I know Capcom wanted Nemesis to be a memorable threat like Mr. X, but fighting him repetitively gets boring really quick. In Resident Evil 2, there were other monsters to fight, so when I was actually fighting Mr. X, I was like, oh shit, okay, alright. At the end of Resident Evil 3, I was like, oh my god, please just die, please. Also, Nemesis only chases you during scripted moments. It's not like Mr. X when you accidentally ran into him. What I think is funny is that Mr. X is actually scarier than Nemesis. In Resident Evil 2, you could just be exploring the police station solving puzzles when you hear this music and those footsteps. Those moments were scary because you were like, oh fuck, oh shit, alright, fuck. In Resident Evil 3, Nemesis just comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh, I guess I gotta run. Nemesis just wasn't the threat that I wanted him to be. Now, the presentation and graphics, I mean, this is the 4th game using the Resident Evil engine. It's obviously gonna look phenomenal, but I cannot praise this as much as I want to, because they reuse a lot of assets from Resident Evil 2. For example, Jill and Carlos's models, it's just Leon and Claire, but with some changes. All zombie models are the exact same, and I said this earlier, there is literally a part where you go to the Raccoon City Police Department, an entire building that was already programmed from the last game. In fact, there's a lot of areas that are like ones from Resident Evil 2, but slightly changed. The vaccine lab just feels like a slightly altered version of the laboratory from its predecessor. Yet another reason why Capcom should have developed this game for another year. They could have made a lot more original places if they had the time. In fact, Raccoon City was my favourite place in this game, because we barely got to see what it was like outside in Resident Evil 2. The gameplay hasn't changed at all. Other than this dodge, it's the same old shoot zombies with a pistol, shotgun, assault rifle, or a grenade launcher. There's a couple of new monsters in this game. For example, Yoshi from the Super Mario series makes a surprise cameo. Great to see him representing Nintendo in the horror genre. You also have Lizard Squad. They're kind of a pain in the ass at the start, but then when you know how to beat them, it's fairly easy. There's nothing else I can really say. The gameplay has stayed the same because it was already good in the last game. In conclusion, this is a rush game disguised as a fully completed one. When you take into context that a lot of content was cut and how short the game is, I think I speak for everyone when I say we just need a break from Resident Evil right now. Like, I would love a Resident Evil 4 remake, but focus on other games. Like, you should start developing Ace Attorney 7. This game had potential, but Capcom didn't give it the time it needed to be on par with Resident Evil 2. I give this game a 5. It's average and too short to be €60, even if it comes with resistance. Make sure to wash your ass, and I'll see you next time.